back on the 2019 Honda Passport, and today we're going to be doing a full brake job on this unit. So I went ahead and got these rear tires off. Let me show you. As far as jacking it up, I put it on the jack point of the vehicle, went ahead and lifted it up one side at a time, and then I threw me some jack stands right underneath that rear center support. So that's going to let me get to both of these and be able to do the service on the rear. So I'm going to start at the rear because I'm going to push new fluid all the way through it. So we're going to start at the furthest point away from the master cylinder, which is the passenger rear tire. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a 10 millimeter, and I'm going to make sure this bleeder breaks free because I'm not going to push any old fluid back into the system when I push these calipers back. So that being said, grab a wrench here. Should break free pretty easy. Yep, nothing to it. Tighten it back down for a second so we know we are good on it. So now we'll get the 12 mil and go ahead and take the brake caliper from the bracket because we're going to be putting new brake pads on it. So first things first, let's do that, and that way we can prop the caliper and set it up here on top of the control arm. All right, so I got that guy, just twisting right back on there. You can see here's our brake pads go with these clips that keep them expanded. You see I was definitely getting pretty low on brakes. So let's go ahead and pry those guys out. Nothing to it. These are your clips that will definitely need to clean up. And of course you've got your pins that will slide out right there. So we'll clean these guys up and be putting all new grease to all this. And now the next thing we need to do is we got these two 17 millimeter caliper bracket bolts, and that's going to let our caliper go. So I'm going to go ahead and get those cracked free. All right, brake caliper bracket off. We're got to get this screw here out. Now these can be a tricky mistress. So what I like to do is to get one of these impact drive pieces here, and it's what you do is you hit it with the back of the hammer and it twists. It'll twist it while hammering in and can break free these stubborn bolts, because these right here can be an incredible bitch to get off. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Alright guys, so I popped this plug out to see if I could find the adjuster. I was having a hard time doing it, but good thing is on these rotors you'll see these two holes right here. So what that's for is an M8x1 bolt. The idea was to use your caliper bolts to take it out, but I never do, just in the fact that you might strip it. But the idea is you can thread, one or two bolts into here, tighten them down, and this will pop the rotor away from the hub because the parking brake holds it, right? So crank this thing down here. As you see the rotor moving out, and then it looks like it popped it. Yep. So pop that guy free. Should be able to work it out. Let me get two hands on it. All right, with that off there, that's what I was looking for right there. So there's the adjuster where I was looking for. So it looks like it was buried down deeper. You got to go at a pretty steep angle to get it, but we'll address that here in a minute. I'll show you on the parking brake. But right now we are ready. My brake shoes look great. So the next thing we're gonna do, we are ready to start putting on the new parts. So let me go get those. All right guys, so what I did was get a Powerstop kit from Summit. I'll drop the link below. But it's got these auto specialty rotors. Here's the part number. A few other ones there for you. These ceramic brake pads, which there you go, the Z17 package. And then you've got the brake end, which we'll go over at the end. But there you go. So let's go ahead, crack this rotor open and get it on there. I just wiped it down a little bit, but let's get this rotor open. All right guys, so the first thing I did was take a clean rag. I had to use starter fluid, but brake clean, anything to clean the cosmoline off the front and the rear of the rotor. The next thing is we're going to adjust these brake shoes out a little bit so the parking brake grabs a little faster. So if you crank this guy out, let me focus in, is out, that's going to push your brake shoes this way, which is going to grab faster. If you roll it in, go the other way, that's going to draw your brake shoes closer together, which you might have to give them a little tap to get them to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust this outwards until that rotor basically has a little bit of drag going on. So I'm going to adjust it, then I'll try to let you hear what it sounds like. All right, so with that rotor on there, see if you can hear. You can see how it sticks a little bit, but back here you can kind of see it's right against the rotor. There, you can hear it dragging to go on. So that's going to be a pretty tight brake shoe. So now our next step is, I can still wiggle it to get it off, but we got to align up this screw hole that holds the rotor on. So you see right there's our screw hole beside that lug, which is right there on this one. So we'll tilt it up, line it up, and go ahead and put that screw in. All right, so when I run that up on there, I just use the same driver. I don't hit it though, I just drive it up there till she's snug. And then we'll go ahead and put this brake adjuster cover back on. Get it pushed in there. And then, a little hard to do one-handed, but then we're going to be ready to put that brake caliper on. Or brake caliper bracket. So let me go ahead and get two hands on that. So on this brake caliper, this kit comes with new hardware. There's your hardware part number if you're just looking to get it. But these are pretty simple. They're just going to pop off. Just get your screwdriver in behind them. Just like so. We're going to do that for both of them. And then we'll pop the new clips on there. And this baby will be ready to put back on. All right, so now she's gonna look just like that. So now, this is where you wanna get your caliper grease, which I've got some right here. This kit actually comes with some also, but what we're gonna do is apply the grease to the inside of these guide rails. So I'm just gonna use my finger, apply it in there real nice, just around all this, and that's where your brake pads will go right if you remember. Now the next thing I'm gonna do is grab these bolts. Remember, they're 17mm. You see they had a little bit of blue Loctite on them from the factory. So I am going to put a bead of blue back on it, and I'm going to torque these guys down to 41 foot-pounds. So at the end of this step, we'll have the caliper back in, or the bracket back on, torqued down, and greased up. All right guys, caliper's in, torqued down, got those two bolts back in. You see this is all greased up. I went ahead and cleaned these. Next thing we'll do is put the yellow caliper grease on these. I'm going to put it on there pretty liberally. You know, make sure it's really covered up. This one with the black ring came off the bottom, this little gasket. So it'll go in the bottom like so, and we'll put that one in the top, and then we'll slide these brake pads on. And one thing I want to mention is if your pins look real crusty or they got real rough spots on them, you either want to replace them or sand them down a little bit to get a nice smooth surface, because this is what allows your caliper to slide back and forth to move freely against your brakes. If it didn't, it could drag, make premature brake wear, poor fuel economy, everything of that nature. And then also remember when you're putting it back in to make sure that this rubber boot does go up over that little ledge right there, because that's what holds it on. All right guys, on your brake pads, when you get them out, they are the same no matter what for the back. On this kit they are, I should say. And they come with the brake squealers. These things pretty much let you know, you see here's on the original one, that the brakes are low and you need to replace. So following right along with that, we're going to put this brake squealer right here on this guy. We'll just press him on. Yeah, that's literally all he does is just go on there. Now this guy's going to be our rear one. So pretty simple. You just get him in place and put right in there. Now this guy, he doesn't have anything. So he gets lined up like so. Alrighty, now we need to come over to our pack and grab our two brake spreaders. What these do is apply pressure outwards on our brakes, so it helps the caliper basically retract. So you see what they're going to do right there. Now, when I put the caliper back on, I'll have to squeeze these over and get the caliper started to go on. So I'm not going to throw that last one on there right now. What I am going to do is go up here to this caliper. Broke this bleeder loose so you can see it's kind of draining out in my bucket. Now the next thing I'm going to do is get my brake caliper spreader, put it in there, and we're going to crank that piston flat. So it's going to push the old fluid out other than back in the system. And yeah, so let me go ahead and get that lined up. So this is pretty simple. All it is, you'll crank it in. You see the fluids flowing out, which is always a good sign. And we'll just keep cranking in until that piston's completely flat. All right, so there's what the piston looks like pushed back in. Bleeder's tight. Now let's go ahead, put that other clip in on the brakes, and then we're going to work this brake caliper in. Now, because this is a little bit of a juggling act, I suggest you basically get the top started. That way you can put the other clip in and then push it the rest of the way on. And be mindful that your plungers are pushed in, so they'll clear the top of the calipers also. Alright guys, so it's in there. That's what it looks like looking from the front. Now as you're tightening these guys down, just make sure that your caliper pins, basically the flat side goes against this part of the caliper. What that does is keep it from turning as you're tightening it. So they both have it. You can see right there, it's hot, getting dark on me. But yeah, right there. So make sure the flat side of the pin stays on it. And tighten these down to 16 foot-pounds. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my pressure system, put some fluid in it, go up to the front, and figure what I need to do. Alright guys, it got dark on me and my phone went dead, but basically pressurizing my system here and pushing fluid through it, putting new in it. So last night I did go ahead and do this other side. Same procedure as before, nothing real out of the ordinary. Now I'm going to go over to the passenger side, since it's the next one furthest away from the master cylinder. And I'm also doing a tire rotation. This is all-wheel drive all the time. We'll do an X pattern rotation. So our first thing here, this one will be a little bit easier because we don't have the parking brake to mess with, but it's almost the exact same procedure. So first thing we'll do is go ahead and take that bolt out, or that with my impact driver. So let's get it. All right, that bolt's out. Next thing, I went ahead and cracked the bleeder with my 10 mil. Just make sure we can get that. All right, now we're gonna go up here to these guys, these caliper bolts. They are a 14 millimeter on the front. So of course we got this top one and the bottom one right there. We'll take both of those up and set that caliper up there on the control arm. All right guys, caliper's off, set it up top there. You see this is identically to the same of how the back is with these pad spreaders. So I'll just go ahead and pop those guys off. No big deal there. And then these guys here, we're not reusing this rotor, so they're not a big deal. Just pop those off. There that is. Now here, if you want to, you can go ahead and pop these off, since we do have new ones in this kit. Save you from wrestling them on the ground. Now we're gonna go to the back, take these caliper brackets off. 19 mil is gonna get you those two. So go ahead and break those free, and that's gonna let this caliper go, or the caliper bracket go. All right, brackets off. I went ahead and pulled the pins out of it to clean those and put them back in. Our next thing, we got our M10x1 bolt. We're just gonna crank this guy in to pop this rotor off the hub. All right, drove that bolt down in there, popped that guy off. Nothing to it. So now we're ready to get the front brakes. I have to clean this up a little bit, maybe take a little wire brush to it. But yeah, let's grab that front rotor. All right guys, come over here in the shade to show you this one. Here's your part number on Auto Specialties. Here's your other ones. Here's your brake kit I'm using. So same thing on this. What I'm gonna do is take this out of the box. I'm gonna take and clean the front and back side of the rotor to get all the cosmoline off. And then I'm gonna go ahead and throw it up there and put the bolt in, the little Phillips head bolt that'll hold the rotor up there. So let's get that going. All right, guys, rotor's on. Now we're gonna go through. You see, I already went ahead and put the new clips on this brake caliper bracket. You see how they go right there. I'm gonna go ahead and get my brake grease and cover this all up. These sliders, make sure they're good and lubed. I am gonna go ahead and clean these brake caliper pins, grease and lube them up. Remember the one with the rubber seals, your bottom one. And then I'm gonna go ahead and grab the bolts. I'm gonna put just a dab of blue Loctite on the bolts right here. It didn't have any on them from the factory, but just a little bit won't hurt. But these guys right here are gonna torque to 80 foot-pounds. So you definitely want to make sure you get these torqued in there. So that's what I'm going to do all this next step. I'll stop and show you before I put the pads in. Alright guys, there's the caliper bracket on, torqued down. Now the next thing, we'll grab a pad here, your one with your squeaker. We'll go on the rear. So it's easy enough to just guide these guys in. You see it goes right into that clip. Sorry, I had to sit the camera down there for a second, but you'll see your squeaker, how it goes to that. So the best method is to start that top. Start it in, get your squeaker on that side of the clip. Then you can put the bottom in. So, kind of show you on this front one. Tilt it up. You'll see your pad right there. You can press that clip in. It goes in just like so. Do the same for the bottom. Push it in. There you go. All right, now that those brake pads are in there, the next thing we got to do is we got to push this caliper, the pistons back. So let me go get my catch bucket. We'll flip us upside down and I'll show you pushing those back. All right, I got the bleeder cracked. So we're dripping the fluid out there. I'm gonna tilt it, and then I've got my ratcheting spreader in there. This tool is freaking awesome. I'll try to drop a link to it down below. Yeah, you just can't beat this thing. You just ratchet it in, it's gonna push those pistons in, and I'll show you the finished product. All right, guys, so at the end of the stroke, pushing those in, I always tighten the bleeder back up to make sure it don't suck any air in case the pistons did bump back out. And then I take the piston tool out, or the press tool out, and you look how flat them babies are. I'm telling you, one of the best tools on the market. So now, get this bucket out of the way for the moment. The same as before, I'll put the top spring in, which as you can see, it's gonna press our brake pads apart there. But I'm gonna hold those together while I start the top of the caliper, get it basically started in and clamping, and then I'll put that bottom spring in and slide that on. Now remember, I put these on in the last step, so we're good there. They're greased up. So let's go ahead and throw this caliper on. All right, guys, I'll try to show you what I mean there. You see, I started at the top. I went ahead and then I went down there and put my pin in, squeezed it in. Now you want to make sure back here that this isn't holding you, so you might have to push those in. There you go. She is in. Now, we will grab our caliper bolts, put these guys in, and we're going to torque them to 27 foot-pounds. And then that means this front tire is almost done except for pushing the new fluid through it. Just want to show you guys real quick on this. What I do after I get this on is I'll crack that bleeder open. You can see the fluid's dingy, dripping down in there. So I'm pushing new brake fluid through the system, because really you should change this out. I think it's like maybe every year or so. But what I do is I just pressurize the system to about 10, which I got fluid in this jug here. You see the needle going up there. Basically like so. And what they're doing is pushing fluid out through there, keeping master cylinder full. And you can see she's running out there now. And what I do is I basically watch for this to turn clear, which it's pretty clear right there. Just let it run a second or two more. And then I'll throw my wrench on there, tighten it up, and that's push new fluid through the system. All right, guys, same exact process on this driver's side. Literally almost, I mean, there's gonna be nothing different. So first thing, of course, pry that off and get started. Brake is bleeder free. Make sure we ain't gonna have any issues there. That one's a little bit tighter, but got fluid running out of it, so it's fine there. All right, take again this bolt, caliper bracket bolts 14, or sorry, caliper bolts 14, bracket. They are the 19s. Same process. Get this rotor off, put the other one on, clean it, put the new clips in, grease them up, clean the pins, grease them up, put them in. Same process, sliding it on, torque it down, bleed it out. Then we're ready to throw the wheels on and this job's finished. All right, guys, so that's gonna be it for this video. Went ahead and got the wheels on, torqued them to 110 foot-pounds, took it out for the break-in. The break-in is from 30 mile per hour to 5 mile per hour 30 times, so it's quite a bit, but you'll definitely smell the brakes. But that's the key to getting a long life out of the brakes, is getting them seated in. So if this video helped you guys out, please hit that subscribe button and go follow me on Instagram at MustangJackson67. And if you have any questions or comments, drop them down below. Always welcome feedback. And until next time, let's keep building.